Come on. Meeting is now live. Good afternoon, everyone. It's 1 o'clock, so I'll make a start on this cabinet agenda. And before we start, I am obliged to inform you that this meeting is being live streamed and recorded. Members of the public are able to hear and view the papers and the papers displayed during the broadcast of the meeting. This meeting is being held using remote technology, and should any cabinet members experience technical difficulties during the meeting, they should immediately contact the telephone number previously given. Councillors are requested to mute their microphones unless asked to speak. The chat function may be used to indicate the desire to speak. As leader, I will interpret the Council's existing standing orders in light of the requirements of remote participation, with advice from the monitoring officer prior to making a ruling. At the start of the meeting, I will ask members of the Cabinet to confirm their presence and any interests. I will ask everyone that speaks during the meeting, including members of Cabinet, group leaders or officers, to introduce themselves before they speak. Right, item 1 is apologies. I'm not aware of any apologies. Is that right?
I've not received any apologies now.
Okay, right, so item 2 will be the roll call and the disclosure of pecuniary interests. So can I ask Willem Butler, are you present?
Good morning, Leader. Good afternoon. Yes, Gwilym Butler here. No pecuniary interests, thank you.
Lee Chapman?
Yes, morning. No pecuniary interests and I am present, thank you.
Councillor Steve Charmley?
Yeah, I'm here, Leader, and no pecuniary interest.
Councillor Dean Carroll?
Present, Leader, and no pecuniary interests.
Councillor Steve Davenport? Steve was having trouble using the remote technology, so we'll leave him for a minute. I think he will get in eventually. Councillor Robert Macy?
Present and no disclosable interests.
Councillor David Minery?
Present and no disclosable interests.
Councillor Leslie Picton?
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm present and no pecuniary interest.
And Councillor Ed Potter?
Present and no interests.
Yeah. And for the record, I have no interest to declare either. Right. So, other people who may be present and can they confirm? Are group leaders? Councillor Roger Evans?
Present, no interest to declare if needed.
Councillor Alan Mosley? Right, no, Alan's not present. And Councillor Pauline D?
Yes, Leader, I'm here and I've got no pecuniary interest in anything.
Right. Officers, Karen Bradshaw?
Present, Leader, thank you.
Andy Begley?
Present, thank you, Peter.
Mark Barrow?
I'm here, Leader.
James Walton?
Yeah, I'm present, thank you.
Michelle Leith?
Yep, present, Leader.
Claire Porter?
Yes, present.
And Julie Files, committee officer? I know you're here somewhere.
Yes, yes, Leader, present.
Right, so we go to item 3. They're the minutes of the last cabinet meeting held on the 1st of June. They've been circulated, and unless anybody indicates differently, I'll ask that they be signed as a true record. And then can I ask Councillor Steve Chalmley to second that?
Yeah, happy to second those, Leader, as correct.
All right. So anybody got any comments on the minutes, or are we all happy to accept them? There doesn't seem to be any comments, so I now accept these minutes as the record and will sign them as appropriate. We move to item 4, which are public questions. And I'm going to ask the Director of Legal and Democratic Services, Claire Porter, to read the questions out. So there are 6 public questions. The first is a question from Rob Wilson. So Claire.
Thank you, Leader. Yeah, the question from Rob Wilson is, the Conservative Party manifesto at the 2019 general election committed to low traffic neighbourhoods, working with local councils to reduce rat-running cars and lorries, making side streets nicer to live in and safer to walk, cycle and play in. At the council meeting on the 27th of February 2020, Rob Wilson asked, what plans does Shropshire Council have to introduce low traffic neighbourhoods across Shrewsbury? Councillor Davenport's answer did not mention low traffic neighbourhoods. On the 28th of May 2020, the Department for Transport outlined what measures they expect local authorities to take to enable increased levels of walking and cycling. The letter specifically mentioned that one of the quickest and cheapest methods was point closures to create low traffic neighbourhoods. At the Cabinet meeting on the 1st of June 2020, Rob Wilson asked, what is Shropshire Council doing to maintain the increased levels of walking and cycling in our community streets, specifically rapidly implementing the government policy of low traffic neighbourhoods? Councillor Davenport's answer did not mention low traffic neighbourhoods. When will Shropshire Council begin working with local communities to implement low traffic neighbourhoods?
Right, thank you. Can I ask Councillor Steve Davenport to respond? Oh, Steve was struggling to get in. I think there is a response. I haven't got it in front of me. Have you got it, Claire, or?
I'm afraid I haven't, Leader. I don't know if the relevant director, Mark Barrow, may be aware of the response and could read it on behalf of the portfolio holder.
I do, Leader, if you want me to.
Yes, please. Yeah.
Thank you for your question. As you may be aware, the aspiration of low traffic neighbourhoods is an issue that the council is progressing. Examples of this approach are the recent full council motion that asked for 20-mile-an-hour limits outside of all Shropshire Council schools. This proposal is being developed by officers and a paper is being presented to full council in September to propose a way forward. This council is also looking to improve and significantly enhance the park and ride service in Shrewsbury to support cross-town transport and connectivity to a wider public transport hub, and details on this will follow in due course. Currently, the response to COVID-19 and social distancing is developing interventions such as one-way systems, partial and complete road closures, cycle lanes and wider footpaths to promote active travel. These details are on the council's website. These interventions will be monitored and assessed, and where there are positive benefits that attract community support, consideration to formalising arrangements will be undertaken. Currently, officers are fully engaged on this work. Additionally, the council will be reviewing its local transport plan, LTP4. This will look at policy considerations such as reducing cars from town centres and encouraging other forms of transport, increasing walking and cycling, and will develop specific policies to inform our approach for our highways and planning policy. Hence, subject to approval, a formalised evidence base and key strategy of the council will be developed and presented for consideration in the future. These interventions will assist in encouraging active and public travel. As ever, there is always a balance to be struck, and currently the response to COVID has prioritised officer time. In summary to the question, practical and policy-based work across a number of fronts is in development and will contribute to the LTN.
Right, thank you very much, Mark. That was on behalf of Councillor Steve Davenport, who is struggling with technology. Right, question 2 is from Charles Green on behalf of CPRE Shropshire. Claire, are you able to read it out?
Yes, thank you, Leader. As I say, this is from Charles Green and it's on behalf of CPRE Shropshire, and CPRE represents Campaign for the Protection of Rural England. The question is, CPRE Shropshire supports building the right types of housing in the right places, in numbers that are clearly needed, whilst ensuring that the county's special qualities and countryside are protected and that the genuine needs of its residents are met. We therefore welcome the ideas behind the Draft Housing Strategy 2020 to 2025 and its 6 proposed priorities. However, we do not believe that the continued aspirational growth pursued by Shropshire Council will protect Shropshire's special qualities or serve its residents' population to best effect, particularly in view of the climate emergency and the ecological crisis. Shropshire Council aspires to build 28,750 houses or more during the local plan review period. We expected the draft housing strategy to say something as to how that number of houses is to be subdivided between the different need groups, but it doesn't. Also, the leader, the cabinet and the council should not just hope that building that number of houses will solve problems, rather than making them worse, without some evidence of the effect of recent building programmes. However, Shropshire Council appears to have little evidence as to who it is who actually comes to live in the new estates it is fostering all around the county. We have heard it said that, in quotes, 1/3 of all new houses sold in the Shropshire Council area are to affluent downsizers from outside Shropshire, close quote, and have been told that, in quotes, research with local agents has revealed that some new housing sites in Shrewsbury have been sold exclusively to affluent downsizers, close quote. However, we have yet to see what firm evidence is held by Shropshire Council. Shropshire Council appears to be opening up the county to affluent downsizers from elsewhere. It appears not to know whether it is making life better for its existing residents or posterity by building these massive numbers of houses. It appears to be blindly pursuing policies that may have little grounding in the reality of evidence. So our question is, what hard evidence does Shropshire Council have of the demographic characteristics of the people who come to live in new dwellings built in its area in, say, the last 5 years? Finally, we also hope that the consultation on this draft housing strategy will not overlap with the forthcoming consultation on the local plan review, and that the LPR consultation will be proportionate in length to the 6-week consultation on this housing strategy, based on the volume of evidence produced for each. And it's said that both the quotes that are referred to were by Mark Barrow in both instances. End of question.
OK, thank you, Claire. I'm going to ask Councillor Robert Macy to respond. Robert?
Thank you, Leader. The housing strategy identifies key housing challenges in the county, and it provides a framework for how these can be addressed by the council and its stakeholders by working collectively and maximising the use of resources. It's for Shropshire Council's local plan to set the long-term housing requirement for the county to 2038. This must have its basis on the housing need derived from the national methodology, which itself is influenced by future subnational household and population projections. Therefore, the county's housing need figure does factor in expected in-migration into the county over the long term. Thank you.
OK, right, we move on. Question 3 is from Mark Fermor. Claire, are you able to read it out?
I am, yeah. And the question is for the leader, Peter Nutting. Given the new statutory guidance in force since the 23rd of May 2020, does the council commit to responding with appropriate budget to achieve the change we need? To achieve the change, it must expect to invest in infrastructure at least to the level advocated by Sustrains and others at 10% of UK transport spend, i.e. £34 per resident per annum. The Minister, Grant Schnapstead, we recognise this moment for what it is, a once-in-a-generation opportunity to deliver a lasting transformative change in how we make short journeys in our towns and cities. According to the National Travel Survey in 2017-18, over 40% of urban journeys were under 2 miles, perfectly suited to walking and cycling. Do you agree? Active travel is affordable, delivers significant health benefits, has been shown to improve well-being, mitigates congestion, improves air quality, and has no carbon emissions at the point of use. Towns and cities based around active travel will have happier and healthier citizens, as well as lasting local economic benefits. The government therefore expects local authorities to make significant changes to their road layouts to give more space to cyclists and pedestrians. Such changes will help embed altered behaviours and demonstrate the positive effects of active travel. I urge you all to make sure you do what is necessary to ensure transport networks support recovery from the COVID-19 emergency and provide a lasting legacy of greener, safer transport. That's a close quote from the Grant Schnaps. Given also that you stated recently in the Shropshire Star, there is a huge potential. Shrewsbury is a bit different to Amsterdam. We've got a lot of hills in Shrewsbury, which makes it slightly more difficult, but there is still a lot we can do around the town to make it more attractive to cyclists. The most significant change that the council can make to increase cycling across Shropshire and show a commitment to active travel will be to introduce a default 20 miles per hour speed limit on residential streets. This will entail very limited cost and can be done immediately. Will the council make this change? Another vital element of your plans will be for segregated strategic routes to encourage safe cycling. There is a good vision for Shrewsbury in the Big Town Plan, but the council needs to make a plan for cycling to provide joined up thinking. Will it? Every active travel planner in the country is leaping into action to respond to Grant Shap's vision. Will Shropshire Council? There is a groundswell of goodwill from across the county offering support and ideas, but so far a black hole in terms of response from the council. Please can you appoint someone to lead the charge? We and many others are keen to help. Will someone get in touch? And that's Mark Verma, who is the chair of the Shropshire Cycling Hub. Thank you, Leader.
Right, thank you, Claire. I'll respond personally to that one. In response to the question raised, there are a number of current initiatives that Shropshire Council is developing. These are the recent full council motion that asks for 20-mile-an-hour limits outside all Shropshire Council schools. This proposal is being developed by officers and a paper is being presented to full council in September to propose a way forward, noting that existing 20-mile-an-hour zones are already in situation. This council is also looking to improve and significantly enhance the park and ride service in Shrewsbury to support cross-town transport and connectivity to a wider public transport hub, and details on this will follow in due course. We have also submitted expressions of interest building upon our electric bus trial for the electric bus town, albeit this is at a very early stage, and we are working to support our wider bus services via government grants. Currently, the response to COVID-19 and social distancing is developing interventions such as one-way systems, partial or complete road closures, cycle lanes and wider footpaths to promote active travel. These details are on the council's website. These interventions will be monitored and assessed, and where there are positive benefits that attract community support, consideration to formalising arrangements will be undertaken. Currently, officers are fully engaged on this work. It is also clear that we need via LTP4 a robust cycling and walking plan, and where the council has made previous interventions and supported with infrastructure, it is obvious that the context need and approach now needs to be different in how we approach and deliver upon this agenda in light of COVID and government guidance and direction of travel. Work with our partners on the Big Town Plan and movement strategies demonstrate clear improvements that could be achieved. Currently, the immediate response to COVID is all-consuming. However, a more strategic approach policy development and a cycling and walking plan supporting in the council approved local transport plan is a key development that needs to be brought forward. Right, thank you. Moving on. Question 4 is from David Cooper. Claire, are you able to read that one?
Thank you, Leader. Yeah. At the Cabinet's next meeting on the 6th of July 2020, the Cabinet is due to consider a draft of the local plan for authority to proceed to Regulation 19 consultation. Can you confirm that there will be no new proposals for sites included in that draft plan which have not been subject to a Regulation 18 consultation? End of question.
Right, thank you. I'm going to ask Councillor Robert Macy to respond. Robert?
Okay, thank you, Leader. The contents of the draft local plan will be made available on Friday the 26th of June, and that's ahead of Cabinet on the 6th of July. I therefore cannot confirm the contents at this stage. Should the draft local plan include proposed allocations which were not subject to the preferred sites consultation that we undertook between November 2018 and February 2019, which was under the Regulation 18, the public will have sufficient opportunity to comment on their inclusion through the Regulation 19 consultation, which will take place this summer.
Okay, thank you, Robert. Right, question 5 is from Nick Saxby. Claire, are you able to read that out?
Thank you, Leader. Will Shropshire Council support the local electricity bill? This bill had its first reading in the House of Commons on Wednesday of this week. That was June the 10th last week. And there is a copy of the draft bill attached. I am strongly in favour of this bill. I believe that it will bring about great opportunity for renewable energy projects to increase their positive impact for local communities. The bill seeks to amend regulations in the energy sector which currently prohibit renewable energy producers to sell directly to local consumers. Current arrangements favour large energy companies and stifle small-scale renewable energy production. If the bill passes, it will make small-scale local energy projects cost-effective. Shropshire Council has spoken several times of their commitment to carbon reduction and improvement in renewable energy infrastructure. Yet I note that the Council has not given an endorsement of support to this bill, as many other local authorities have. I am part of a project in Shropshire to develop renewable energy in the county. I have seen the great potential that our region has for becoming a substantial hub for green energy development. Several town and parish councils in the county have given their support to this bill. I feel it would be remiss of Shropshire Council not to join them. If Shropshire Council does indeed value climate action, please pledge support to this bill by completing the online form, and then there's the address, and writing to the campaign. Again, the address is given. Given its significant potential to improve both the clean energy provision in the United Kingdom and the empowerment of local communities, I would be perplexed why you would not. I would greatly appreciate a response as to whether the Council will indeed support this bill or an explanation of why it will not. End of question.
Thank you, Claire. I'm going to ask Councillor Dean Carroll to respond. Dean?
Thank you, Leader, and thank you, Nick, for the question. Having taken advice from colleagues, it is our view that the success of the bill is desirable not only for climate change, but also for ourselves as local authorities if we are to be able to deliver on a number of climate-related objectives, such as the ability to improve the resilience of local energy supplies and to improve the carbon performance of our local communities. For a local renewable project to supply their local community seems so obvious that it comes as a shock to many to find that they simply can't. The loss of the government feed-in tariffs has made community energy schemes far more marginal, and this will only be addressed by increasing what they can charge for their energy unless an alternative form of subsidy is introduced. Current energy market conditions and policy changes made by Ofgem currently disadvantage smaller community scale renewables and storage suppliers.
Okay, thank you, Dean. We move to question 6, which is from Mary Davis. Claire Porter, can I ask you to read the question?
Yes, Leader, and this is the last question today from members of the public. From Mary Davis. The government is committed to ban all new petrol, diesel or hybrid cars by 2035 and is currently considering introducing a scrappage scheme in which drivers could be given up to £6,000 to trade in their diesel or petrol cars for an electric one. In order to encourage more people to switch to electric cars, is the council gearing up for this potential surge in demand by ensuring all future developments will have electric charging points? Also, please confirm if the council is planning to install electric charging points at their offices and car parks for use by staff and the public. If so, what is the current position and what is the estimated timescale for when this will be done by? End of question. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'm going to ask Councillor Dean Carroll to again respond. Dean.
Thank you, Leader, and thank you, Mary. The council have undertaken consultations with suppliers of charging points and where best to initially site these in the context of the network that is being rolled out by commercial providers across Shropshire and the country. Part of this initial review was to review the potential locations for charging points at council buildings and its other locations, which include car parks, council depots and park and ride sites. Timescales for their implementation have not as yet been clarified, but we will be able to provide an update on this in due course. It would perhaps be also helpful to highlight that the council are also exploring options to electrify its own fleet of vehicles, its car club vehicles for staff travel, and has recently submitted an expression of interest to the Department for Transport to provide for electric buses in Shrewsbury. We did receive a grant from Homes England to install 2 rapid 47 kilowatt charging points on the A49 Southern Corridor. Sorry, that should say Highways England, I think, not Homes England. These are located in Church Stretton, East Hope Car Park and Ludlow Lower Galdford Car Park. Both are now operational and open to the public as of last month.
Okay, thank you, Dean. That's the end of item 4, public questions. So we now move to item 5, which is questions from members. And there's one question, and that's from Councillor Roger Evans. Right, Roger, can I ask you?
Yeah. Thank you, Peter. My question is, there is much talk about putting in place recovery plans. And note a press release which was issued recently by yourself as leader of Shropshire Council concerning the setting up of 2 groups of Conservative councillors to look into this. Despite efforts to work cross-party, no members from the second largest group of councillors appear to have been included. We are now in the recovery phase, with many businesses opening on June the 15th, today. To help all of Shropshire recover from the present and continuing situation, then surely cross-party joint working is best for us all to work together, as is happening in most other local authorities. Thank you.
Thank you, Roger, for the question. Right. Whilst we are still very much in response mode to manage the impact of COVID-19, we are also working on transitional planning to reinstate services following central government guidelines. In order to do this, operating frameworks have been developed. An overarching internal facing corporate framework, an external facing framework, and a service level operating framework. These follow the government phases of relaxation and demonstrate how we will reinstate and operate safely the recovery. This is being undertaken in parallel with the refocus work, and both undertakings are intrinsically linked. A protocol is in place for the reinstatement of operational assets, which is led by central government and PHE guidance and signed off by directors. All of the above feeds into the overarching corporate recovery plan. The Council has made extensive efforts since the outbreak of COVID-19 to ensure a broad spectrum of business support and engagement. This has included the promotion and distribution of government cash grants and advice and support to many of Shropshire's businesses through both the Marches Growth Hub and teams within the Council, including economic growth and regulatory services. The Council has been working closely with key stakeholders and business organisations throughout this period, with representatives from a cross-section of sectors, including Shropshire Business Board, Marches LEP, Federation of Small Business, Chamber of Commerce and the NFU, amongst others. As lockdown measures have eased and a timeline became clear about the reopening of non-essential retail businesses today, in addition to continuing the responses and management of further grants through the extended funds, we've received over 700 applications in the first week. Officers have also been preparing plans for the reopening of these businesses and our market towns. This work has been across departments with a multi-team approach to offer support and advice to businesses and working with town councils and business organisations, including the business improvement districts, to help with the immediate measures for reopening. A digital guide is being prepared that will be published at the weekend to offer businesses a simple, clear resource for information advice in one place. Letters have been sent out to businesses with lots of information about where to go for support for their reopening, including our internal regulatory services team. And we continue to meet regularly with business organisations to ensure that we are aware of business issues and concerns and to get key messages out via these channels. The development of our economic and social recovery plans will be key to the longer term work to support business and our community. Lots of data has started to be gathered to begin to inform this from a number of sources, as it will be key for us to form a clear picture of the impacts based on evidence. We feed this through the Marches LEP directly into central government as well. We will continue to involve business representation and key partners in this work going forward. The Council is leading 2 informal working groups set up to address the coronavirus-induced economic recession. To be clear, these are not decision-making committees of the Council. They will, however, involve Cabinet members discharging their portfolio holder responsibilities. The Economic Task Force will address economic impacts and the Social Task Force to help mitigate the social impacts on our citizens and communities. The membership has been drawn from across a wide variety of public, private and third sector organisations. The Economic Task Force will look at how to support local businesses and the local economy through the recession, while the Social Task Force will look at such issues including universal credit and housing. Both task forces meet for the first time this week. The Economic Task Force involves a number of partners listed above and specifically the Chair of Shropshire Business Board, the Chief Executive of the Marches LEP, the Chief Executive of Shropshire Chamber of Commerce, Department of Work and Pensions representative, Local Federation of Small Business representative, education representatives including University Centre Shrewsbury and a rep from the colleges group, sector representatives including visitor economy, construction, agriculture, manufacturing, professional services and the voluntary sector. Right, but Roger. Okay, right.
Yeah, can I have a supplementary, Leader?
If quickly then, yeah.
Okay, I note your answer, but I come back to the original question. Member lead is what the government say should happening, and they give examples like this. Government also recommend cross-party, so the council can speak with one voice, a strong voice, and on behalf of everyone. As together, we are stronger, and we will take Shropshire forward into the rest of this year and into the future. But I'm disappointed to see that you continue to say that it will be Conservative cabinet members only and nobody else from this council be involved with this, taking it forward.
I note your comments, but we are trying to make sure the task force involves people who are actually the decision makers. Okay, thank you. Item 6 is scrutiny items. There are no scrutiny items, so therefore we'll move to item 7. And this is the proposed extension of Shrewsbury Town Centre Public Spaces Protection Order number 1 2017. And I'm going to ask Councillor Gwilym Butler, as portfolio holder for Communities, Place Planning and Regulatory Services, to explain the purpose of the item. Gwilym.
Good afternoon, Leader. Thank you for that introduction. This is effectively just a piece of housekeeping. It's an extension of the existing Public Spaces Protection Order for Shrewsbury Town. Of all the consultees that were actually contacted, it is fully supported and is here today, so we can actually extend it through for another 3 years, starting on the 1st of August. To that end, I have no hesitation in moving the recommendation at 2.1. Thank you, Leader. I'll leave it at that.
OK, thank you very much. I'm going to ask Councillor Dean Carroll to second. Dean?
Thank you, Leader. Yes, very happy to second this. It's a very sensible and proportionate move to extend this.
I think this is a pretty straightforward item. So unless anybody indicates differently, I'm going to suggest we just accept it. I'm going to ask legal, Claire Porter, if we're happy to do it that way, because I do think this is straightforward. So the recommendation is that the Cabinet accepts the position as set out in the report and agrees that the Shrewsbury Town Centre Public Space Protection Order number 1 2017, as set out in Appendix A, will be extended from the 1st of August 2020 for a period not exceeding 3 years. So, Claire, are you happy if we just, unless anybody indicates differently, we just accept the recommendation?
Yes, I think that's fine. Fine, Leader.
Right. So, has anybody got any objection to us accepting that? No, all the indications are that we've accepted that. Right, thank you. So that recommendation is accepted by Cabinet. We move on, therefore, to item 8, which is the housing strategy. And I'm going to ask Councillor Robert Macy, as portfolio holder for housing and strategic planning, to explain the purpose of the item. Councillor Robert Macy. Rob?
Thank you, Leader. This housing strategy comes at an opportune time. Many households have been either directly or indirectly impacted by the current situation, and this, in combination with the existing challenges, means it's increasingly important that we consider how to use the resources available to the Council and our partners to best effect in regard of housing. The essence and indeed the key vision for the strategy is for all our residents to have the right home in the right place, from childhood through to old age. Just as important is ensuring that the opportunities for those in our communities who, for whatever reasons, have very specific needs or whose life hasn't followed the traditional path, such as those who find themselves homeless. We recognise there are a broad range of housing requirements which need to be addressed by an equally broad range of housing sizes, types, tenures of both affordable and market solutions. We also want to support businesses to grow, and to do so we need the right homes to attract and retain employees. Furthermore, our housing requirements need to be addressed at a time of climate emergency. We cannot do this ourselves, but we are reliant on working relationships with our partners and our communities. The draft housing strategy you have in front of you for consultation recognises these various issues and seeks to provide a framework for the delivery of housing to meet the diverse needs of the communities of Shropshire. Section 1.2 sets out some of the key challenges in the report that we face, and of course this report was written pre-COVID-19, so obviously some of these have been exacerbated. Certainly issues around homelessness have. If you look at the 3rd page of Appendix 1, that sets out the vision, objectives, and also talks about the creation of action plans. I'm very conscious that as a strategy we need to have a way of monitoring this on a regular basis and updating it. That's the only way this is going to work, and it is going to be an evolving piece of work as we go forward. But just to reiterate, the vision we've set out in the draft for housing is all homes are well designed, decent homes of high quality. which will protect Shropshire's unique urban and rural environments and ensure it's a great place to live. That all Shropshire residents have access to the right home in the right place to support and promote their health and well-being throughout their lives. Obviously, we've gone into more detail with key objectives further on. 6.9 in the report sets out that there will be specific action plans around homelessness and a number of the other issues that we have that will deal in more detail with those and exactly how we can address those with ourselves and partners. And I would stress that the best way to deliver this strategy and be really effective once it is agreed is with our buy-in from our partners. We can do so much more with them on board as well. And we already have evidence that across that county, it's about building on that. So the report, the strategy in front of you, we are seeking the 3 recommendations as set out in section 2 of the report. And one of those is to go out for a 6-week public consultation. And we really are asking for stakeholders to get involved. A number of them we've spoken to already in preparation of this document. Obviously, the current circumstances have curtailed that a little bit further than other things we'd like to do as well. So we are looking for feedback from them, from members and from the community to come back with something later in the year to bring back to Cabinet for approval. Thank you, Leader.
Okay, thank you, Robert. I've got a couple of speakers who want to speak, but before we do that, I'm going to ask Steve Charmley, Councillor Steve Charmley, to second the report. Steve?
Thank you, Leader. Yeah, you just endorse what the portfolio holder's just said, and happy to second the paper.
Okay, thank you. First on the list to speak was Councillor Pauline D. Pauline?
Thank you, Leader. I've read the report and I've read it again this morning, and it doesn't seem to, in my opinion, promote the need for improving the existing infrastructure, and that really needs to be updated before we do any more houses, particularly, in my area, where this weekend with the rainfall that we just had yesterday, there was sewerage all over the pavements in 2 different parts of the town. Where the over the railway crossing and down here just by me. So this is something that I'm really concerned about. I look at the Home England strategic plan. And I'm sort of saying, where do they say about the people who can't buy it? Where are they mentioned specifically, and which I think they should do? Shropshire Council acknowledges that the housing for the low wage earners are very important, and I'm very grateful for that. So I think it is something that we need to take on.
Pauline, you've muted yourself.
Sorry, can you? Well, what did you?
Yeah, we heard most of it. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Sorry. I put the question I'd written down. And I do think that we should be looking more, as it was one of the public questions, looking for housing our local people in preference to people coming in from outside. I know we need to improve the economy by having people from outside, but our biggest problem at the moment is looking after our local people, and particularly our young people that we want to keep in the county, and we don't want to unbalance the population any more than it is, because looking at the way that the amount of people of my age, it is very worrying. It puts a lot of pressure on our the hospitals and the care system. And we need desperately to highlight again why people, and on page 101 we've got the opportunities where it says to educate and dispel the myth of the types of households that is or may become homeless. And I think people, they tend to think that people who become homeless have done it themselves, and I think we need to be out there promoting the various reasons that why people are made homeless. It's not, quite often it isn't their fault, it's just just circumstances. So I do welcome this draft housing strategy, and I do hope that a lot of people will answer and will take part in the consultation. And thank you very much for doing it, but please, I beg of you, please look at the infrastructure in the towns, particularly our small market towns, because there is a real problem everywhere. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Pauline. I've also got Councillor Roger Evans. So, Roger.
Thank you, Leader. Thanks to Roger Evans. Welcome the report. I think it's been delayed for whatever reason, but I note in the report on page 75, it notes that there are 1,731 long-term empty properties in the county. They are causing problems. The council has refused to act to reduce those numbers. There is task forces in Whitchurch and there's been in Market Drayton, but the rest of the county is there. I've been chasing one in particular for ever since I represented one particular village, and I know it's been a thorn in the flesh of that parish council for 20 years. So I would hope that we can bring forward policies to tackle that. I note it's a 6-week consultation, and I also note on page 79 in number 4 of the proposed priorities to ensure people can access a mix of housing options. This is going to cross, I would think, the local plan consultation. So will they be brought back together, or will one looked at first and then feed into the other? Because I would hate the local plan to fall out and be challenged because we are overdue a local plan update. So how is this going to be taken forward? Do we know the date when the consultation is going to start? Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to go back to Councillor Rob Macy and see what what responses we can give to those 2 questions. Rob?
Okay, thank you, Pauline. I'll take yours first. Obviously, the infrastructure element of this, whilst there are going to be some specific things and things in terms of climate change, most of the infrastructure stuff will be addressed through the local plan process and obviously through the place plans, which have gone out widely. Obviously, my colleague Gwilym has been out there with them as well. That's where we're really trying to identify and address what the infrastructure needs, but we do need that follow through from those plans all the way through to delivery. I do agree. Looking at the affordability side of it, as you'll know, we have published affordability ratios across the county. We undertook a piece of work doing that. Some of them are highlighted in the report. Obviously, in other parts of the county, the ratios are even higher, up to 11 times people's wages and so on. It is a big problem for us, and that's something we need to address. Obviously, initiatives like the Right Home, Right Place team and the surveys they've been undertaking give us a good step on improving our specific knowledge of those areas and what we're looking for. So the results of those can feed into this strategy and help inform it once we get to the action plan stage and make it a really localized approach. You were talking about more homes for local people. Obviously, we do, even with the local people, with young people we do need more additional economically active people in our county as well. We need them for precisely the reasons you're saying. We've got an aging demographic, so it's just about getting that balance right. But we do want to support young people to stay here and work here. We want them to live in Shropshire and love where they live. One of the ways we have done that already is the community-led schemes that have come on the back of some of the Right Home, Right Place outcomes and so on. And prior to that, there are some I know, for example, there was one in St Martin's with a local board looking at local connections and so on attached to that development. So there are things, we just want to roll those out further and enhance them as we go forward. And then your point on the homelessness is well taken. It's one of the biggest reasons we have for homelessness is family breakdowns. Obviously, the current situation is exacerbating that. People are where they are. We're seeing a rise in homelessness and so on, which we are tackling, but we do need a long-term approach as well for that to reflect where we are with it. Roger, just taking your point on the empty properties, I'm not sure it's fair to say we've refused to act. I'm aware of a good number of properties over the years since I've been a councillor that have been brought back up to standard. It is a bit of a carrot and stick approach. I agree, we need something that's fit for now that we can use going forward and really accelerate that, but we have talked about them. I know, for example, the Director Mark Barrow's talked about examples previously as well that he's aware of and being made aware of by people where they're at the heart of our community. They are buildings that we want resolving into something that people can be proud of. So it is something that this strategy is looking at. In terms of the timescale, I'm not aware of the exact date for the 6-week consultation yet, but I'm quite happy to supply that to members as soon as possible in advance. And in terms of this, the intention would be we do the 6 weeks, we bring this back later in the summer. We can have a look what the results are, hopefully get to the stage of signing off a final version of this. As you're aware, there is the consultation on the local plan going on alongside this, but council won't be asked to make a decision on the local plan until December. So we're hoping that you will have seen the housing strategy and the results of the consultation, and if we've managed to sign off a final draft of it prior to council considering the local plan. So you can take that into consideration when you're looking at them in the whole then. I hope that answers the questions, and I'll supply the date for the consultation as soon as I have it.
Okay, that sounded pretty comprehensive to me.
Yeah, thank you.
Right. Any other comments? So there are recommendations. I don't know, can everybody see them, or do I need to read them out? Well, I'll read them quickly. Cabinet is asked to 1, acknowledge the work to date on developing the draft housing strategy and endorse the proposed vision and objectives. 2, approve the draft housing strategy at Appendix 1 for public consultation for a period of 6 weeks. And 3, agree that a final version of the housing strategy, having considered any relevant consultation responses, will be brought back to Cabinet later in the summer for approval. Now, I don't expect there to be any opposition to this, so I'm going to do like I did last time, and I'll give everybody a few seconds to respond. But unless anybody says differently, I'm going to say that we're approving this. So if anybody wishes to object or has a different view, let me know now, and I'll give you a minute just to make sure. No, nobody's indicating anything differently, so we accept that recommendation, and we will move on to the next item, which is consideration of objection to proposal to reintroduce on-street holiday let permit concessions in Ludlow. And I believe Steve Davenport is with us now.
Yes, I'm here, Leader.
So I'm going to now, just for the record, Steve, when we do the introductions at the beginning of the meeting, we just make sure everybody says they've got no interest. I'm assuming you've no interest.
No, I've no interest at all.
Right, and before we just move on, Roger Evans has said, can it be made clear that the Cabinet have decided the previous item? Well, I think that's pretty straightforward. I think it was a Cabinet decision, right? So, Steve Davenport.
Well, Leader, this is to put right a wrong that had happened during the 1819 consultation for car parking in Shropshire. We agreed since then that a holiday lets in Ludlow would have one permit for £100 a year as opposed to £400 a year. So it's a really good one for holiday lets in Ludlow, and I hope it's a very quick one, just putting the wrong right. So the recommendations are the Cabinet authorise the making of the proposed traffic regulation order to introduce on-street holiday let permit concessions in Ludlow. That's it. And I put that to the Cabinet.
OK, thank you. So I'll second that. But I think Councillor Andy Boddington is in attendance, has requested to speak. Andy, are you available?
Yes, indeed. Thank you, Peter. In fact, this is very brief. I was expecting the Town Council to attend. They object to the proposal. They want it to be applied to all accommodation in the town centre, the hotels, the bed and breakfasts, and all of that. And we cannot do that. The town centre is not big enough in terms of street car parking spaces to give permits to high turnover properties. This is simply for holiday lets which are typically let for 1 week at a time, slow turnover, generally older people who need to park where they're stopping. And like Steve, I commend this to the Cabinet.
Thank you very much. Again, this seems pretty straightforward. So I'm just going to see if anybody's got anything to say before I move to the recommendations.
Leader, Councillor Roger Evans, can I speak? I did put a note in the side.
Right, yeah, go on then.
Okay, it's fairly quick one, Leader. On page 122, under 1.7, I'll read out the complete section and I'll raise my query. Until the adopted parking strategy has been fully implemented, it is advised that no further concessions for on-street parking, other than that for holiday let properties, should be considered. Have we any timescale for when the adopted parking strategy will be fully implemented, as it may have repercussions elsewhere, unknown at this moment, but it could? So it's that timescale I'm interested in hearing about. Thank you.
Well, I don't know whether Councillor Steve Davenport knows the answer, or if not, we can ask Mark Barrow. So, Steve,
yeah, I'll give way to Mark.
Okay, Mark, are you around?
Sorry, Leader. Yes, just coming off mute. Yes, Roger. In terms of kind of the wider strategy, we'd have been pushing on with LTP4 much sooner than now if it hadn't been for COVID. I think in terms of the one of the answers to the public questions earlier, we're going to be cracking on with LTP4 now at pace. I think all of this kind of fits into that strategy of the movement of people, traffic, parking in an integrated way. And it does kind of overlay with the local plan and other things. So as much as possible, we're going to try and align all of that as we can so that it kind of feels consistent and coherent to all of our communities.
Okay, thank you. Right, anybody else want to comment before we move to the recommendations? No, and again, because I think this is non-controversial, rather than going through a list of names, I'll give people the opportunity to say if they oppose. But the recommendation is the Cabinet authorise the making of the proposed traffic regulation order to introduce on-street holiday let permit concessions in Ludlow. And 2, it is recommended that, should the decision be approved, holiday let owners should be asked to provide feedback to the service area on numbers of people renting the properties with regard to those with physical or learning disabilities and or caring responsibilities for whom the location of the parking facilities is a significant consideration in terms of physical access. This will contribute to better understanding of any positive impacts in inequality and social inclusion terms, which may then be replicable elsewhere. Right, so everyone understand what we're being asked to agree? And again, I'll give you a minute if anybody wishes to object or raise any query. No, that looks pretty straightforward. So Cabinet are agreeing to the item and the recommendations. Right, I think that is the end of the meeting. So thank you all very much. And we are starting to get used to the technology and it's nice to see you all. Right, thank you all very much. Thank you.
Bye.
Take care.
Okay.